in a three-dimensional space. So you can really create things that are almost biological and superhuman. And the technology that we have available, not just in universities, but in industry, that's becoming more and more increasingly affordable, means that people are starting to experiment with using that with traditional processes. And these are some of the resulting forms that I've seen of late. I think it's definitely something worth exploring in the local area as well with the universities here. I've approached the ones in Liverpool and they've been more than happy to allow me to try and push the boundaries of these technologies and to find new applications for them. So just to kind of summarise some of that a little bit, obviously I believe that it's the thinkers that are the creators. These are the people that come up with what we term as the trends, but there are obviously people who take all of that kind of creativity and all that massive information and form it into something that seems to be more understandable. And this is where we see at trade shows and various platforms across the country, organisations that present what are trends for the next year or the next 2 years and so on. I've actually just come back today from Spring Fair in Birmingham, which is the largest UK international trade show. And there's a organisation there which is owned by EMAP who set up the show, and that organisation is called the WGSN. And I'm just going to show you now some of the slides that they put together. They're actually doing 3 talks a day at the moment on trends, and I stood and listened to them today for sort of 20 minutes or so. And they were just talking about the surface finishes and the shines, and you must look for botanical patterns with this sort of colour. And I was thinking, well, what does that actually mean? And where are you actually getting that from? And they're getting it from designers and thinkers who are responding to what's available, what's going on in society, and they're just packaging it for us. So I think it's important that even though we understand on an aesthetic or on a visual level what they're communicating to us, there's actually so much more behind that, and I think we need to think about why that occurs. So this is what the WGSN have presented. 3 trends, and they've called them 360, faux real, and your space. And this is for what's going to be hot in 2011, according to them. So 360, we were very lucky actually that on our stand, the 5ml Collective, they actually picked over 50% of our products and placed them in this stand, which I thought was quite ironic really, because, you know, who are we? We're just a very small company, you know, we don't have some of the major contacts that these guys have got. But because we're at the thinking end all the time, what we create naturally just fitted what they had to talk about. And I'll just let you read for a moment, rather than me reading it out, what they say this trend is about. Oh, you can't read it? Okay, sorry. 360 evokes notions of discovery and exploration, both in bygone ages and times to come. This trend sees the traditional in a new light and seeks different angles from which to interpret the familiar. At the same time, it complements the contemporary with accents of the classic. Geometric forms are contrasted with ample organic forms, and the intricate design of early scientific instruments is counterbalanced by rich metals and mineral structures. My interpretation of that is quite different. I've interpreted it as objects which offer an alternative cultural perspective, narratives and objects of discovery, natural forms, geometry and digital crafts form a greater human connection for product longevity and healthy, meaningful values in a time when ecology matters more than ever. And I believe that many of the objects that they had in the vicinity here will have come from values similar to that. And it's just interesting to see the difference in how it's packaged. The second trend, faux real. WGSN described this as faux real invites you to push design boundaries, to question aesthetics, preconceptions and find new applications, introducing a sense of surprise and beauty as the fake becomes inspiration for a new aesthetic. As the fake becomes more realistic, make the real look fake. Lovely, but I haven't got a clue what they're talking about there. And I've reinterpreted that because I actually felt a little bit annoyed by that, because we got about 3 or 4 of our products in there, and just the word fake plastered all over the place kind of got my back up straight away. And I've changed that to iconic and graphic interpretations or representations of familiar forms, honesty, not fake, efficiency and colour accents respond to our economic position and offer more for less to those wishing to create a more optimistic environment to live in. So it's that thing I was talking about earlier, the new modernism. It's trying to give something to people that is more affordable but also more dynamic in how it appears. The final macro trend that they presented was called Your Space. And they've said that Your Space is concerned with creating a sense of personal space to let consumers breathe and uncluttering one's life. Concepts of sustainable design and living are at the heart of this direction. Classic shapes are distorted and high shine is contrasted with powdery tactile finishes. White and pale hues evoke a sense of serenity, and reflective surfaces represent a contemplative state of mind. And I've reinterpreted that as calming tones and natural-looking materials are clean in appearance and clean in concept to offer serenity of mind and a clear conscience so that consumers can be ecological. Obviously, this is one-sided, this is my opinion. However, again, you can see that there's quite a difference there, and I feel that because we had over 50% of our products slung into this context, I feel I've got a right to say something. So finally, just to sum up everything I've spoken about, I would definitely recommend, if you're interested in product design and how things are emerging and what new technologies are out there, to look in unexpected places, to visit some of the smaller shows. I know Manchester's doing a lot at the moment. Liverpool's just in its third year now of having a design festival. Some of those shows are really under-visited by creative professionals, and I was very disappointed at the last one that I went. Even though it was great for showing the locality what I was doing, I didn't have many professionals in there, you know, trying to collaborate with me. So I think it's great to support each other across the Northwest and to get involved. And I think you'll find that there's some real talent in both the cities if you're really willing to look for it. Topics to look out for: efficiency and form, powder-coated steel and rich muted colours. Honesty, products that exhibit the bare essentials. Accents, subtle yet powerful slithers of colour with natural materials. Surface relief and folding. Greening, so that's all to do with the behavioural significance for the user. The upcycling and craft revival. Unusual castings, sculptural forms, and especially digital craft and impossible shapes. Thank you for listening. I'd like to invite any questions. Anybody, feel free. Yeah.
You made a point about designers were having a reaction to things at the moment, or having a reaction to the idea that they were there just to supply things in a fashionable way,
Yeah.
and they should really be leaders. But in some of the designs that you flagged up, there's a very heavy content of green and environmentalism.
Yeah.
So to what extent do you think designers are following the trend of politics and limiting their horizons and ambition? Or in what sense do you think they're kicking against that and looking for much more ambitious, bigger projects?
I think it's very much a bit of both worlds, really, because as I explained earlier with the 3 brands that I've had to have, some of what I do pays the bills and has to in order for me to sustain my creative practice. But what I've tried to do is separate that from what I believe is where I would like to see product design go, so that I'm not giving conflicting messages. But I think all too often that's the case, that designers are led, if you like, to an extent, and then they'll react, and then they'll be led a bit more. So it's something that will be an ongoing battle, I feel. Any other questions?
I'll ask one. Obviously, you spent 6 months with Philippe Starck in Paris, which I assume was quite an inspiring time of your life. What do you think was the most important thing you learned that you took through to rethink things on your business side, not necessarily the design side, but more the business side?
I've never been asked that. It's quite an obvious question. Nobody's ever asked me what's the most important thing I've taken through. Never to give up, I guess. Starck said himself that he was 40 before he had a product on the shelf. I'm not sure how true that is, but he certainly inspired me to just keep kicking back and working at it. I mean, I do feel sometimes that he makes a lot of fleeting statements, and it's okay for him to do that because he's made his millions on other things, and now he's taken the ecological approach. And it would be quite easy, as the gentleman before mentioned, to be led. But I'm actually just, I don't personally want to get to a stage in my life where I look back and feel as though it was an opportunity wasted. I've been given an opportunity here with the publicity that I've had, and I'm determined to just keep pushing and see through my ambitions and my dreams. And if it doesn't work out, at least I can say I tried. No, I think he knew he was wrong in saying that as well. And in fact, some of the British designers, some of the more well-known names, if we like, have been in touch with me after that and actually kicked it back against it. So I think he's lost a few friends in the industry through what he said.
Who are your own inspirational designers?
Ross Lovegrove is one of them, who studied at Manchester Met, in fact. Main inspiration with him, I guess, is his desire to question all the time and to get back to something that's very human in its form and its function. I had the honour of going down to meet him in London, and I thought I'd get 5 minutes and a cup of tea with him. He actually spent 3 hours with me, which I thought was very generous of spirit, and I think we need more designers who are able to offer that and to inspire others to see the industry go forward. Yeah.
Are you considering staying in the region, or are you going to London?
No way, I'm not going to London. No way. Why? Because it depresses me. It really does. There's no other way to say it. I spent some time down there after the programme because 3 of the guys I filmed with all moved straight there to try and jump on some sort of bandwagon. I mean, I was engaged before I went on the programme, so my fiancé lives in Liverpool and we've been together 7 years, so that wasn't something I really considered, but had the opportunity being there after the experience of visiting them, I don't think I could do it. I feel as though it's very overbearing down there, and you can't get a conversation out of anyone. Yes.
Hi. I really enjoyed the programme, but as well as that, I wanted to about being in the Northwest and things like that. There's obviously not a lot of money around, and hasn't really ever been. I don't feel like maybe in recent years, but things have really slowed down again. And do you subscribe to the kind of theory that sort of not having that budget and not having that really frees up loads of possibilities? And I think a lot of people feel that that's like a negative, but I really
I've found that I've actually become more creative because of a lack of what's out there. I mean, I must admit, when I first graduated, before I went into teaching, I was kind of frustrated. My attitude was, why aren't I getting a grant? You know, that was typical Scouser, if you like, way of reacting to it. And I think still now, a lot of creatives feel that it's their God-given right to get a grant for something to explore. And I've learned that you've got to prove why it's worth exploring, and there's got to be a market for it, or there's got to be a benefit to people of some kind. And if you can't prove that, then you're not going to get money for nothing, you know, to just play with. So if you want to play, like I've been in trying to create something, you've got to find other income streams, and you've got to be creative within that. I think we're done. Yes, sorry. Well, flow, actually, just because it's so crazy, the walking stick. But it's actually been the most frustrating as well, because I've been back since coming up with what Starck displayed as, oh, it worked, huh? It's a beautiful prototype, and he was showing it onto the TV, and everyone thought, oh, it's a finished product. No, 3 years later, I'm still struggling with it. So it's kind of a labour of love for me, and sometimes determined to see through. Sorry, you had a question?
Yeah, I just had a question. You spoke about creativity and design being the idea and so forth. From a brand perspective, there's many brands out there that obviously adhere to that ethos of having design and creativity, the idea at the centre of the product.
Yeah.
So what do you think of Apple?
What do I think of Apple? Well, I don't actually, Apple's a funny one. As a brand, you mean, or as a product set? Both. Okay, I've got mixed messages with Apple, because I'd like to say from a communication point of view, it's very, very strong. Obviously, the advertising works amazingly well. The products are very clean and simple to understand from some perspectives. I do own an iPhone, and I find it amazing. But then if I try and use an Apple computer, we were having rows before because I had a PC. You know, I find that so unintuitive. So it's a strange one, really. I think because they're constantly innovating, some things take time to catch up, but I think they're definitely a leading brand and one that we can all learn from.
What brands, what British brands out there that can have a similar ethos to what you believe in your eyes, are successful? What do you kind of...
What British brands are successful? Again, it's a tough one because I've seen brands out there that have creative ideas that I think are fantastic, but they often lack a socially responsible focus or an ecological angle. Like Suck UK I find is very inspiring from a product point of view, but some of their objects I find are quite gimmicky, which frustrates me a little bit. So it's hard. I like elements of lots of people's work, but I guess you can never like it 100% without creating your own thing. Otherwise you're not original. Okay, I think we're done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.